sharing on this topic. It's a very passionate topic of mine. And also I can bring you an update and somewhat of a closure on my career since I last talked to you. So I think it's exactly this month last year that I talked right here in April. So it's exactly a year. So this is my third time, really happy to be back. And also bring you greetings from our CIE in Dallas. So San Francisco is great. It's really where I started my career. I actually started from electrical engineering and material science, so I did semiconductor. So a lot of our SPIE conference was held here. So I would always come from the early days, back in the 80s. So I won't have to worry for you to know how old I am since I retired. Obviously, I'm old. So let me just make sure this is interactive. Give me some idea what you know about grit, and what are some challenges that you run into for conflict resolution, and what do you want to take away today? Very briefly, so that I have an idea to make sure I meet your expectation. Anyone? I'm sure you're not shy. Hey, Ed. He's my comrade in Vancouver and here. Yes. Any? Yes.
Yeah, I think I read, I listened to a TED talk.
Angela Duckworth?
Great.
Yeah.
I think it's very similar to perseverance.
Yeah.
As you also similar to the psychology scientist in Stanford talk about growth, growth mindset.
Yeah.
That means
growth. Yes. We'll talk about that too.
Challenge you continue to practice.
Yeah.
And do not give up.
So you know a lot about grit. Do you want to come help me? So what are you expecting to learn, or how to apply?
I don't know how to apply. That's I come here to listen.
There you go. Very good. What else? Thank you. That was good. There are a lot of research and a lot of talks on grit. It really have to boil down to how you personalize it. How can you really take it in your own situation? So I'm going to share with you what I've done in my own personal life and professional life, and also share with you my career conclusion and what I'm doing next and how all this tie together and how does it apply to you. What else? What are the expectations? What challenge do you have? Not necessarily very personal sharing, but just what kind of challenge you run into when it comes to grit and conflict resolution. No expectation? That's easy for me to meet. All right, so I'm going to dive in. All right, so we're going to define what grit is and why it's so critical for success. Do you think it's critical for what you know about grit, perseverance, adversity quotient? Do you think we need it for success?
Yes.
Obviously, right? Why? Because are we going to run into adversity? Do we have challenges that we face that will need perseverance? For sure. And many of you, may I just see show of hand, how many of you come from overseas, that you were not born here? Most of us, right? We already overcame quite a bit of perseverance and challenge on its own. And I'll share a little bit of that in my personal life. And then we'll shift gear a little bit, not too much, because grit is very much related to dealing with difficult times, including difficult people. So when you work with difficult people, how do you resolve conflicts? So we're going to talk about that, and hopefully we'll get you to role play. So some of you heard my story, and I'll share a little bit since many of you have not heard it. I also came from overseas. I was born in Hong Kong, from a very poor family. We were homeless, and we came to the States as refugees. And my parents worked in restaurants from morning to night, and very difficult. I couldn't have gone to high school, let alone college or graduate school. And as you can tell, I'm really thankful I was actually able to graduate from Cornell and Princeton. I'm really not that smart. I do know how to study and take tests, I guess that's important, but I'm really not that smart. But really, it was a turning point for me, like what my VP has asked me, what's your turning point, Elaine? I would tell him how I was a troublemaker, and seriously, I was. I just went through my detailed story this morning at the Q&A session. And then really changing, my turning point, enabling me to become a peacemaker. And my turning point is my Christian faith, that I became a Christian at age 17. So my life's never the same, ever again. So because of that, I was able to experience new changes in my life, and miracles happened. And I don't know if the power is still on. It's in the back. Keep talking because you can hear me. And doors opened for me to get scholarship from Cornell, and AT&T sent me to Princeton for graduate school. So we spent most of our US years in Maryland, where I immigrated to, then New York for Cornell, where I met my husband, and then New Jersey for my work in Bell Labs for 28 years. Then AT&T relocated us to Dallas. So I was from Dallas last time when I talked to you. And then we were there for 4.5 years, and then January we moved to San Diego, sunny California. So we're really glad to be at least in the same state, so it's easier to come here. So this is my career map. I was running into Alvin when I came in. Alvin, you there? And he was saying, yeah, I remember your career map. I said, you're going to see that again. So I encourage everyone to do some kind of career map. Many different ways to do it. This is just a simple way to show what education, your background, where you might have been, and what parts of the business and what functions have you done. And you may remember I talked about the career model. Anyone remember? I'm going to take a chance. If anyone remember my 3 career model? Anyone? The career model I, career model T, and the career model pi. Rings a bell? So I'm a career model pi. So I have done many different technologies, as you can tell. Since I'm in a high-tech environment, I'm sure you know everything about my different technology I've done. And many different functions. I've done technical, business, marketing, and such. So that's a career model pi. Versus someone like my coworker in Bell Labs, people like Simon Z. He wrote books. Some of you have used his book, right? VLSI Technology. He's my coworker. They are specialized in one field and one field alone, and very expert. Wrote papers, books, and won Nobel Prize. So that's career model I. And then T, people did one field but different functions, whether it's technical business. So in my case, I did many different fields. That's my career model pi. Got that? So next time I come back, you're going to tell me? No guarantee. All right, so I've done all types of wireline, wireless, and hardware, network, semiconductors where I started. Like I told you, I would come here for conferences early back in the 80s. And services, applications, and then did data analytics, fiber, broadband. And my last assignment, right before my retirement, is really hard. You guys probably heard, right? Software-defined, yes, software-defined network. SDN. How many of you work on SDN? Or software-defined network of any sort? No one? I actually met someone over the weekend who worked on that with Ericsson. Battery. Okay, so let's get battery.
Battery's died.
Died. Okay.
Keep on going.
So you can hear me, right, in the back? Yes. So I would really appreciate all that no one wants to do. Why is that? You think you may have a good chance to shine and succeed, provided you take on the assignment that no one wants to take with calculated risk, right? Don't just jump in there and say, you have no clue what to do, and take an assignment no one wants to take, and then fail miserably. So be smart in taking your calculated risk, and do take advantage of projects that no one wants to do. Especially if your leadership asks you to do that project, the chances are they know you well enough. And in my case, my VP knew my strength, which I'm going to share a little bit before we get into the real topic of the grid, is that you have the capability and the capacity to take on this project. If they actually look up to you or look on you as someone to take on a project that you can do and that no one wants to do, consider it. Definitely with calculated risk and with 2 feet in, right? And with your head and feet and arms, make sure that you have the calculated risk and the support that you need. So that was incredible success. After my team and I got involved, and it's really a team effort, the 3 months that we got involved, this product production volume improved 10 times compared to the 3 months that before we got involved. So that was a huge success. In some way, that was part of the reason why we retired, and there are many other reasons. The fact that you're successful in a project and leaving on a high note, is that good? Instead of leaving when you're all done and they're done with you and okay, just go. So that was part of the reason. There are many other factors. So we retired in December 2017 and moved on to San Diego, where our son lives, and our daughter lives here in San Francisco. They are both working now. So this is my top 10 that I shared. I'm not going to go through in detail, but this is my top 10 as I left the company, sharing with all my leadership and all my coworkers, my top 10 of looking backward, looking forward, and looking upward. How I've shared with you, I've received so much, and I want to really help and bless many other people. I've come from a very, very humble beginning, and how my life's changed. And I've learned so much through grit, through resilience, through adversity quotients and emotional quotients, that I want to give back and continue to help other people to really learn and fast forward as opposed to learn the same mistake that I've learned. So I'm hoping that you can learn from my mistake. So it's really a privilege to share. Like you heard my story, I was really living on the edge, now living the American dream. So it's been quite a journey. So as we ended our career, some snapshot from our retirement party. So this is held at AT&T's headquarters, worldwide headquarters in Dallas, at the very top floor, 37th floor, where the chairman used to sit. He moved down to the 4th floor because they want to be faster to leave the building if anything happens. Instead of 37, so they empty up the top 2 floors from the executives that they moved downstairs. So we ended up having the conference room to our benefit. So this was top of the headquarters. And many of you probably know that I love acrostics, right? You guys know that? I make a lot of acrostics. I share a few more with you today. So I would make acrostic using people's name for people's birthday or service anniversary. So at the retirement party with the 100 people who came, my VP surprised me with asking everyone to make, using my name, Elaine Kong, the acrostic, about how they think of me, what's my personal brand to them. So one other time when I came to talk to you, I talked about personal brand. I'll reinforce a little bit. That's very important. You need to continue to build up your personal brand in a sincere manner, not in one with just me, myself, and I, right? So I'm not advocating selfish agenda, me, myself, and I personal agenda, but as you're going to see what people say at my retirement, it's really advocating the way you should live with a sincere value and your own belief system, that people would catch your brand without you forcing it upon them. So this is the personal brand that he perceived me. For those of you who know me, are you surprised to see this? Do you think it's consistent with what they see me at work, as what you may see me at CIE or at church or different groups? And just, so this is how I live. And that's, in fact, this is the VP who called me and put me onto the project that no one wants to do. In fact, he said every morning he wakes up thanking God, so glad that Elaine is running this project because really no one wants to do it. It was a train wreck. It was very difficult. And I'll tell you why he asked me to do that project. So this is how I am at work. Always electric, pretty scary, energetic, encouraging, and very authentic. Persevere, right? We talked about grit. So I want to show this to you because I don't want to talk about grit and perseverance without walking it. I want to walk the talk and tell you how I've lived it so that how you can apply to it. So he thinks that I was irreplaceable. So it was very much of a challenge for him to know that I'm retiring. He was in denial until the last day. When he sees the office is empty, then he realized I'm gone. So it was very difficult. He thinks I was irreplaceable. Never to be forgotten, good, bad, or ugly, whatever that means, right? Always optimistic. That's important for us to have grit and perseverance. Kinetic force of nature. So I'm just really compelling. People usually cannot say no to me. So good or bad. So you want to be kind of convincing in a way that people are willing to work with you.
And then uniquely spiritual, I'm very committed Christian. He knows that very well. And in fact, he asked me, what's my turning point? So I share with him. And then a natural leader, and then grew through, what's the word? What's the A word? Grew through adversity. So that's what grit is, right? How do you handle adversity? What is your AQ, adversity quotient? How many Q do you know? We all know IQ, right? What other Q do you know? EQ. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. They are related. Especially when you deal with conflict, you need EQ. Huge. For my 33 years of career in AT&T, and I'll share with you a very personal story, how EQ is incredible success factor in working with people, solving problems, dealing with politics. Emotional quotient is tremendous. What other Qs do you know? We're going to learn about today? AQ, right? Adversity quotient. So there are all kinds of Qs. There's a cultural quotient that Abe and I taught many students, and we talked about cultural quotient. And then we have, of course, spiritual quotient. So there are all kinds of quotients. So at my retirement, many people came. Many people wrote different comments for me in a memory book or emailing me or giving me a retirement card. So I'm selecting a couple of them to share with you. This is my reflection on my career and my journey, wanting to share with you what I've learned and how what I learned and implemented and what do people see. And I want to encourage you just to share with you it's possible. What I'm going to share with you is not theory, it's possible, practical, and people share the results. So this is really kind of a testimonial in terms of how it works or not. So this one person said, your work ethic, dedication to the business, and knowledge are all without question. Because I definitely confess I'm a workaholic. My name is Elaine, I'm a workaholic, so I'm absolutely guilty. So I'm very dedicated to my work and really love solving problems. And that's a good personal brand to have. And then what they really see is beyond just your results, because you are working there as a person. So it's important to see what they said in the second part, to make sure to marry so beautifully your giving heart. So when we go to work, and Abe and I involved in teaching young people in the CEO Global, and what we teach them is servant leader of integrity. And you may find this to be not practical, but to be honest with you, what I see in corporate America is very much needed. Servant leader of integrity, where you think about others. You're there to give. You're there to help others to be successful. So are you going to worry about yourself? Why not? You help others to be successful. Do people know that you help? Because whatever you do, no one can take that away from you, right? You definitely want to think about how to help other people to be successful. So we call that others-centered leadership, servant leader of integrity. So giving heart, your committed faith and love of others, and I'm just really humbled and encouraged they use the word legacy that will impact us for years to come. So that's quite an encouragement. So this is a finale story from my retirement. You know me being very positive, half glass full, and everything, I can do it. No is not in my vocabulary. I can, has a can-do spirit. And I say, thank God it's Monday. And my coworkers and my leadership know I meant what I said. Except for this 1 year. What do I call this? Sunday night blue. You know what that means? Every Sunday night I cried. Have you heard of my story? No. What's amazing, even if you heard this before, this is the conclusion. It's a Cinderella story. Amazing. 7 years ago, when I took on this job, in fact, it's the same job that nominated me to receive the STEM, Women of Color Career Achievement Award. Out of all people in AT&T, they nominated me. Out of all companies and government agency in the country, I received this award. It's the same job that got me that award. And yet it's the same job that put me into Sunday night blue. You know blue, right? Depression. Really difficult. Every Sunday night. My husband here can tell you, and you can talk to him more. I would cry Sunday night. So my husband, my 2 children, pray for me, we read the Bible, really give me enough courage how to go to work on Monday, because there's some very, very difficult people, political, ill-spirited people, that they would take people away from me, take project away from me. Remember, this was the same job that nominated me to receive this incredible award. So, what do? So through every Sunday's prayer and encouragement for my family, I was able to really face this very difficult situation with grit, with perseverance. And I was able to get rid of the enemies. I did not kill them. I turned them into friends in a very positive way. You see what they wrote? This is one of the people who was part of that quote-unquote gang who made it very difficult. And this is what that person wrote. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you in AT&T. We've been through some crazy times. She meant those hard, difficult, dark times. I want to protect the innocent, so I don't want to name the organization. So some organization, the multiple organization, and they said, through it all, you impressed me with those around you, and those around you with your grace, kindness, and positive attitude. That's the result of grit and perseverance. And that's what emotional quotient is. And my definition is, do not let other people's words, actions, and attitude change your value and control how you respond. Does that make sense? Do not let other people's words and actions and attitude change your value and control how you respond. That's grit. That's EQ. That's AQ. Regardless of the circumstances. So I went through this for the whole year. We became friends. In fact, at some point, when they see me on the hallway, they were so embarrassed. Because I was still, hey, hello, how are you? Just being professional. Now, be very careful. I remain professional and positive, at the same time, assertive. We're going to talk about assertive later on. Assertive, in a way that I'm not the carpet being stepped on, right? Not to be stepped on or taken advantage of. And yet being firm and positive, and keep your own esteem and your own authority, and really be the strong one, right? Because you're actually stronger when you don't yield to their peer pressure, the negative peer pressure. You actually model positive peer pressure for them. So they were embarrassed to say hi to me in the hallway. And then a couple of jobs later, the same person and I were in the same organization. And then we became friends, we sat next to each other, celebrate each other's birthday, and believe it or not, this person planned a retirement party for the 100 people who came. So, my last day, December 7th, I invited her to have lunch to thank her for organizing the party. I gave her a gift, treat her lunch, and then I show her what she wrote. Of course, she remembered what she wrote. I was really appreciative. I said, thank you for writing this. She started to cry. She apologized. Then she explained to me what happened. She said every time she thought about this, she was so sad. Early on, she would cry oftentimes when she thought about it. And I had no idea. So she told me what happened. She said back then, all our peers, we worked together, and there were some bad apples. Not the apple down the road. Good apple. Bad apple. Ill-spirited. She followed them and did the same thing, making it very difficult for me. So much that our big VP, the VP who nominated me to receive this Career Achievement Award in the STEM Women of Color organization, that the VP would get them all together and say, hey, you guys cannot do that to Elaine. Even the big boss told them to stop. Did they listen? No. And the big boss couldn't even manage them, unfortunately. So, make the story short, we have good closure, right? We hugged, we cried, and we prayed, and we I got the permission from her to share this story. And it will be in our book that we're going to write. I've shared this story before, but before the closure, because it just happened a few months ago. And without name, without details, this is about what I've learned from this experience. And just as to share with you, and it took 7 years. You may never have closure. Many times you don't have closure. This is a Cinderella story, which is amazing, that I was able to close. So you may be in situations that are very difficult. I encourage you, just use mine as an example, it's worth it. So EQ, don't let other people's words and actions change your value, your belief, and control how you respond. Those who have low EQ are those who totally react instead of think, process, stop, breathe, pray, and then respond. React and respond are two very different things. Our goal is to learn to be wise, be calm, be collected, and smart to respond instead of react. So these are some of the different, there's many talks I've given, but those organizations actually did a good job of video recording, including Simon. These are the two that I've done here. And this has many different pictures from my retirement party. There's some articles. So if you're interested, you're welcome to look at these links. So also want to set the stage. Any one of you remember this pyramid? Okay, good, so I'll talk about it. One person. So this is kind of my brand. The organization have used and productized this into their training for young people in the leadership program. And this applies not just to our job, so-called career, but really overall our life excellence. So I'm going to go through really quickly because that really gives us a framework of what career and life success is. And that's what I've experienced over the years and what I continue to practice and continue to teach. Everyone should know their own 5P in your life. The first 3P, purpose, principle, and passion, is internal. It's your internal soul searching. What's my purpose? What's my guiding principle? What's my passion? That's internal, getting to know yourself. And then the top 2 layer, people, is all the soft skills that we talk about, right? There are all these soft skills you can learn, right? Conflict resolution, communication, relationship building, negotiation, leadership, right? So many soft skills you can learn. How do you influence other people? So that's all about the 4th layer, people. Because whether you're engineers or not, show me, how many are engineers? Many of you, right? Even when you're engineers, you still need to work with people. Wherever there's people, there's problem and politics. So we all need to know soft skill. And to be honest, I think us engineers probably need it more because we may not be as well trained and tuned to soft skill as other people who study business, for example. So I'm very big on helping people with the soft skill and people skill. So anyone remember what my definition of leadership is? Because this is all what people skill is. Leadership is the ability, first of all, it's not bossing people around. It's not controlling people around. It's not command and control. So leadership is the ability to influence others to be the best that they can be for the greater good. Does that make sense? Leadership, can you repeat after me? Repeat with me. Leadership is the ability to influence others to be the best that they can be for the greater good. Does that make sense? The point is, our role as a leader is to influence others. And how do you influence them? That's all the soft skill, right? By role modeling, by showing them, for guiding them, encouraging them, all the soft skill. Influencing them to be the best they can be so that they can get the most potential to put it into practice. But not for their own good only or for my own good only, but for their greater good, right? Because there were times I would teach young people and I would ask, do you think Hitler is a good leader? Sad to tell you, some of them thought that he was because he led the success of Germany. But at the expense of killing lots of people. Totally not for the greater good, right? Not a good leader. So leadership definition apply to every one of us. And some of you heard me talk about leadership is not just leading down, right? You also lead across and you lead up. So that's the 360-degree leadership, right, Mr. John Maxwell? Right, so I've taught 2 weeks in Taiwan on this one topic with young people. So leadership is ability to influence those below you, your peers, and those above you. And that's what I've done in my last 33 years in AT&T. And those are the snapshot of what people saw in my personal brand and what they recognized for me to be a giving person and not just selfish. And then we all want to be successful, right? And have good performance. That's the pinnacle. But I encourage us to start with the bottom, knowing your foundation. So for me, my purpose, of course, when you look at this pyramid, it applies in many different settings. You can apply it to your big life journey, which I'll share with you very briefly, my view. And you can apply it to your career. You can apply it to your family. You can apply it to a particular job transition. And based on that setting, and you figure out what is your purpose, principle, and so forth. But in a big step, in a big picture, my guiding principle and my purpose. So my purpose in my life, and I'm really happy, my purpose was very much supported by SeaWorld Chairman, because he wrote a book on this. So my purpose is to enjoy God's love and share God's love with other people, whether at work, at home, in a community, or in church, or wherever, or at CIE. I'm here to share the love. So the chairman of SeaWorld wrote this book, named Love Works. He talks about how important love, support within, not romance, not affairs, but love, helping other people is important at work. So that's my purpose. Principle, so we all have our values, our belief, our culture, our upbringing. So whatever it is that train you ever since you're young to make the right decision, right? Your Asian culture, make the right choices. So for me, of course, my upbringing and also my Christian faith, the Bible is my guiding principle. And then my passion. Passion is something you enjoy doing without being paid. Full disclosure, I don't get paid. Speaking here, I don't mean for you to pay. You don't need to pay. Because I enjoy it. It's my passion. I enjoy helping other people to be successful. That's my passion. That's why I coach a lot of people, mentor a lot of people, and I'll share some example with you when I go through the rest of our discussion today. So passion is to really use our 3T, our time, talent, and treasure, to give back to the community. Because I really have received a lot. I have nothing. We were broke. We were poor. And I've received a lot, and I want to help other people. And then when you do a lot of people, relationship to influence, and then your performance. So all that map into these 7 pillars of success as well, the calling, your integrity. Remember the definition of integrity? You do the same right thing, whether people are watching or not, right? Integrity is doing the same right thing, whether people are watching you or not. So that's your principle, your values. Serving with your passion, people is building relationship to influence, like we said earlier, and then pursuit of excellence is your performance. So this is my 5P model. I encourage you for you to think about it for yourself, and ultimately don't forget to balance. Don't just be a workaholic. Be sure to have a well-rounded life, healthy family life, and community give back, because it's not just about yourself, but also to help other people. So how many of you remember this? Did anyone see this before? Of course you did. I came to Lockheed Martin, Stephen. Yeah. Thank you for remembering that. This is a powerful tool. Yesterday at the parenting conference, I encouraged the parents to do this with their children. Starting with the parents admitting what their own SWOT is. Anyone in marketing? No one? So you know in marketing? There you are, Alvin. So marketing, we do SWOT, right, for products. Have you done SWOT for people? So I encourage you to do that. One of my mentors asked me to do that, and I found this extremely useful. Ever since I've used it for myself, with my mentors, And I use it with my mentees. I encourage you to do it, and why? Even for job searching. This is huge. This helps you to prepare for interview, right? Typical question for interview, what? What's your strength? What's your weakness and all? So this is huge. Also, this helps you to understand yourself, right? From whose perspective? Your own perspective, right? Self-aware, so that you don't have blind spot. Look at those threads on mine, on the lower right corner. And also from who? Other people, right? It's a 360-degree feedback that you can get from other people. So I use this tool with my mentors and my leadership to say, how am I doing with my strength? One time, my boss spent 1 hour with me on my strength. Has your boss ever done that? For any one of you who's a manager, I encourage you to do that for your people. 1 hour with them to talk about their strengths. It's incredible because she wants to make sure my strengths are well used and I can perfect my strength. And research has shown what happens when you use your strength for work. 6 times productive. That's a lot. Would you rather use your strength or weakness to work, right? Obvious question. So strength, it's good to see if you're using your strength. And then weakness, sometimes it could actually be strength, right? I'm a high standard, demanding, perfectionist. I interview a lot of students applying to Cornell and Princeton. So oftentimes when you ask them, what's your weakness? They say, oh, I expect too much, perfectionist. So it's really like a strength, but you overdo it, then it becomes a weakness, right? So a tip about answering this question in interview. Make sure you don't just say, my weakness is perfectionist, and stop. That would be bad. Why? So you did nothing about it. So you would say, my weakness is perfectionist, and I'm working on deciding when to stop and make it roughly right, 80-20, since it's going to be diminishing return if I keep working on it. So what does that do when I say that in an interview, telling them my weakness? So I told them the weakness, but also what did I say? What action I'm taking. First, I know that's my weakness. I know what the problem is, and what action am I taking to change it? Is that a good answer? Yes. So it's up to you how to respond. Don't just stop. So make sure, we're going to talk more about a little bit about communication later, and we'll give you more example. So weakness is strength overdoing. So overdoing kind of, and then opportunity, a lot of things that we talk about in soft skills, things that you can grow, right? And threat is fatal. Threats are the fatal flaw. Threats are those that are blind spots, dangerous, that you're not even aware that you may have these problems. So threats are critical to overcome. So those are some, so I encourage you to consider doing that, and all that should show your EQ, your AQ, and some IQ. So personal brand include both all your SWOTs, and this is another example of what people, or my VP has said years ago on what they think my name represents. It was my 30th service anniversary at AT&T. And then strengths. How many of you heard of Strength Finder? Only 1, 2, 3. You guys gotta look into it. I love it. How many of you have done it? Yes. So I won't quiz you. What's your top 5? So I'll tell you my top 5. So this is the reason my VP asked me to take on the projects that no one wants to take. Because I'm really passionate and driven and excellent with execution. I can solve very complex problems and break it apart into manageable size and project plan it with many different people and work very well with people and deliver. That's why he asked me to, and every time he saw me in the elevator in the hallway, say, you are custom made for this project. You are tailored. No one else can do it. So it's just really amazing closure of my career. So, is there a pointer? No? Oh, yes.
Yes, but because it is screen, so
Doesn't
it's
show.
not
I got you.
easy to
That's
show.
okay. So then I also love numbers and all. So Strength Finder, there are 34 qualities. I've done Myers-Briggs, DISC, many different personality tests and gift testing. I love Strength Finder the most because it's very relevant to what we do in our professional world. So there are 34 qualities that are very relevant to the professional world. So these are my top 5. 15 minutes, take a survey. So you want to buy the book, Strength Finder, and they have a code, $20, and the code, you can go online and do 15 minutes. And it was amazing just because I learned what my top 5 strengths are. I realized that's why I love my job so much. And I get paid too? Yes. And that's why I love serving so much. That's why I love everything I do because I'm using my strength. So my top 5 strengths are A, B, C, D, R. A is achiever, right? Type A person, achiever. You give me something to do, I'll get it done. B, belief. I have a very strong belief system. My Christian faith, I believe in people, believe in facts, and making things happen. C, connectedness. I love connecting facts, connecting the dots, and connecting people. So I have a very extensive network. People have said I have 1 degree of separation. What's the typical separation? 6 degrees, right? So I was told that I have 1 degree of separation. And just love meeting people and networking. And that's something we probably talked about before, networking last time. But it's a huge skill. And then D is developer. Like I told you, my passion is to help develop other people to be successful. So I mentor, coach people at work, outside of work. And then R is that responsibility, is the double achieving, double type A person. So Texas Instrument loves this. They big believer in this. They actually have all the employees take this, and they put the top 10 in every person's office and cubicle. Why do they do that? So you know who you're working with, right? So if you come into my office and say, oh, Elaine has achiever and responsibility. So if you give me a project, do you need to ask me again? No, right? Because she's going to get it done. So versus some other people who may not have that, then you know how to work. So you see that I don't have vision. I don't have learner. I don't have strategy. Those are beautiful qualities. Those are the other, some of the 34. So then they will know if they were to brainstorm a vision or strategy, they may not ask me, they would ask somebody else, you know? So it's really powerful to do this as a team. So let's now talk about grit, adversity quotient. So I want to share my professional journey and my personal journey with you to tell you that I was not coming from a silver spoon family or all rosy growing up. And yet I faced many, many different challenges and gave you some examples. So this is adversity quotient. This is grit and resilience. So we'll start with the video. How many of you have seen this video? It's very popular. They're actually translated into Chinese. And we were in China last year teaching in Beijing, right? We taught 300 students in Beijing on leadership, and we showed this video. So can we have the video? So Chief Justice in the Supreme Court of the United States, John Roberts, was asked to give a speech at his son's commencement at graduation. And it's a high school, private school, really thought-provoking. And they translate it into Chinese caption. So for those who can read Chinese, you can appreciate that. And that is, how many have seen it? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's look at that. And this is a good kickoff on how he really encouraged the young people to embrace adversity. So, as they're setting this up, how many of you think that adversity is good for you? Good, I'm glad.
From time to time, in the years to come, I hope you will be treated unfairly.
Thank you very much. If not, audio's okay. He's not doing a lot of show and tell. He's just talking. It's good to see his face. And then there's Chinese caption, which makes it very easy to follow. Yeah, that's it. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, start from here is fine, because there was a little bit duplicate. So this is fine, don't go back. This is good.
Now, the commencement speakers will typically also wish you good luck and extend good wishes to you. I will not do that, and I'll tell you why. From time to time, in the years to come, I hope you will be treated unfairly, so that you will come to know the value of justice. I hope that you will suffer betrayal, because that will teach you the importance of loyalty. Sorry to say, but I hope you will be lonely from time to time, so that you don't take friends for granted. I wish you bad luck again from time to time, so that you will be conscious of the role of chance in life and understand that your success is not completely deserved and that the failure of others is not completely deserved either. And when you lose, as you will from time to time, I hope every now and then your opponent will gloat over your failure. It is a way for you to understand the importance of sportsmanship. I hope you'll be ignored, so you know the importance of listening to others. And I hope you will have just enough pain to learn compassion. Whether I wish these things or not, they're going to happen. And whether you benefit from them or not will depend upon your ability to see the message in your misfortunes. Now, commencement speakers are also expected to give some advice. They give grand advice and they give some useful tips. The most common grand advice they give is for you to be yourself. It is an odd piece of advice to give people dressed identically, but you should be yourself, but you should understand what that means. Unless you are perfect, it does not mean don't make any changes. In a certain sense, you should not be yourself. You should try to become something better. People say be yourself because they want you to resist the impulse to conform to what others want you to be. But you can't be yourself if you don't learn who you are. And you can't learn who you are unless you think about it. The Greek philosopher Socrates said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Thank you.
What do you think? Do you agree with him? Yes. Right? When we lose something, it's when we appreciate more and treasure it more. And let's hope that we don't learn to treasure only after we lose it. So make sure we treasure it when we have it as well, especially our family and our friends. So, one of my favorite verse also in the Bible really tells us suffering helps you to build endurance. Endurance is another word for perseverance. Endurance. And then endurance develops character. And character gives you hope. We all need hope. Very important to have hope. And that's what grit and adversity quotient can help us. Suffering is not so good, but we're all going to run into it, like Chief Justice said. So let's be prepared. And from suffering, you build endurance and perseverance and resilience. And that builds your character. And that gives you hope. So, grit definition. We all know Angela Duckworth. Many of you heard of her. Really proud Asian. That she had given a very famous TED Talk, like that young man has told us. That grit is the power of passion and perseverance. She's like me, loves the alphabet what? P. I love the alphabet P. I've used P for 30P for teachers training. And if you're my Facebook friend, you'll get some 5P blessing from me every year on your birthday. So the power of passion and perseverance. So passion was my third layer, right, in my 5P pyramid, and perseverance is the endurance. So, talent, how you were born with, your nature, times effort, right? The hard work, the nurture that you put in will give you skill, right? And skill, again, put more effort, you give you achievement, right? That's your performance, your success that we talked about earlier, the pinnacle of the pyramid. So effort is key, right? So even though there are people who are very smart, if they don't put the effort in, they're not going to accomplish much. In fact, one of the detail points for my 5P pyramid was about attitude versus aptitude. If you have someone who's excellent aptitude, high IQ, but they have terrible attitude, not willing to learn and not making effort, are you going to hire them? No. As smart as they are, we don't want that. So talent doesn't do you enough good. Effort is double effort, double bonus. So persistence, some other words associated with grit, we all know. Persistence, resilience, curiosity. Curiosity is big, especially as we hire people and I interview students who apply to Cornell and Princeton, that they exhibit the interest to learn and the curiosity to discover new things. Why is that important? Because all the education we have and all the training we get, not going to be enough to do your job. You're always going to learn new things. Always need to be curious to learn new things. Conscientiousness, knowing and being diligent, self-confident, and self-control. So Angela said a passionate commitment to a single mission. So whatever that mission is that defines you, defines your purpose, defines your goal. And an unswerving dedication to achieve that mission is how she defined grit to be. So what happens when you don't have grit? So these are some of the symptoms, right? You would tend to blame on other people. One of our children in our family, when they grow up, when they were growing up, they always say, when something wrong happened, they said, "You made me." Now, he's an adult, he's a married man, he knows better, and he's grown and he's matured. So blame, right? You blame on your parents, blame on your siblings, blame your family, blame on your coworkers, blame on your bosses, blame on the society. It's their fault. Blame on the government. Blame on the president, right? So blame is not a sign of grit. So anything on this slide is something you don't want to have. So avoid those. Think about those. Procrastination, that's like another one of our favorite topics. Have we done time management yet? That's something we should definitely talk about. How do you not procrastinate? So grit are people who are smart in managing their time, managing their life. Complain, similar to blame, complain. Excuses, easily giving up, low self-esteem, focus on weakness. We're going to have some table comparison later on. Compare yourself with someone else. I told the parents many times yesterday at a parenting conference, our fingers are all different length, right? Our children are all different. We're all different. Don't compare. So in Chinese, how many of you understand Chinese? Many, right? 人比人 I don't want to be 气死人, right? So if you compare people, you get really mad. I think that's the translation. So don't compare unfavorably with others, because that becomes self-pity, right? So we're going to talk about that later on as well. See the problem as permanent. Oh my, I'm so stuck. I can't do anything about it. Not true. It's not permanent. Things can change. And then you just predict defeat. You're thinking it's a self-fulfilling prophecy when you think you're going to fail. So don't do that. Assume the role of a victim. So I have a table later comparing a victim with the victor. How are you different? How do you behave differently? And always look for easy way out. I'm not saying to make it difficult, but don't just cop out and say, oh, avoiding it. So we'll talk about that in conflict resolution. So, nature and nurture, right? We talked about talent from your nature and effort from your nurture. How do you round up both to your benefit, to help you grow. These are very difficult situations of people who may not have grit. These are difficult when people have chronic stress, adversity, growing up, lack of comforting, and actually really have some disabilities, very difficult. They are not able to concentrate. You may know people like that, and you may be like that. You cannot sit still, cannot easily rebound, cannot follow directions, get confused, and difficult to deal with unpredictable, instability, not being stable. And so those are people who are very difficult to have grit. So they're extra effort they have to work on. So someone mentioned about mindset, right? We all know this book. If you don't know this book, look it up. Good book. The view you adopt for yourself profoundly affects the way you lead your life. So how you think of yourself, your attitude, we talked about earlier, your mindset makes a big difference. Your mindset, what's your view of the world? So there was the two mindset that this author talks about. Fixed mindset or growth mindset. Which one is better? I put it in green, just to make it easy. Green is good. So, fixed mindset, thinking that intelligence is fixed. I'm stuck, I'm born with, that's how I am. And my personality is fixed, that's how I was born, my nature is like that, and it's unchangeable. But the growth mindset says, your intelligence can be malleable. We know people, in fact, many famous people didn't even graduate from Harvard and universities, right? Many that we know, and became very successful. And personality are also moldable and malleable. And of course, oftentimes, the way that you still have that personality, but there are things that you can still develop and grow to the better. And then the traits can also be developed. So that is something that will give us hope. So this is a comparison of how you would look at fixed and growth mindset from grit perspective. So Angela said, learning is hard, yeah, and yet it's fun, and it's exhilarating and gratifying. And it's also daunting, exhausting, sometimes even discouraging or depressing and disappointing, but it's worth it. Right? Remember we said earlier, curiosity, always willing to learn something new. So fixed mindset for ability would say, okay, need to be proven, abilities there cannot be developed, you're fixed, you're stuck. But growth mindset, ability can be developed through learning. Feedback, fixed is only interested in feedback about ability, but not interested in suggestion to change and grow. So you're very myopic and narrow-minded. So growth mindset say, very interested in feedback to help me to grow, help me to learn, and welcome all the suggestions. And that's when I talked about 360-degree feedback, right? I talked about your SWOT and use that as a vehicle for people to tell you how you're doing. Then learning, fixed mindset would be only safe and sure, something you're going to do well, and only motivated by my goals. And there are some people, some of you are still young, in college, right? There's some students who would only take classes that they think they're gonna do well and get good GPA. So you actually don't end up learning something challenging. So that's your own lose and your own gain, right? What are you losing or gaining? So growth mindset would be like when things get more challenging, you're even more motivated to learn to master it. So this is a big difference. And this helps you to grow your grit if you have a growth mindset. So remember we said we don't want to blame and don't want to complain. So someone actually came up with this and I modify a little bit and really change it to say, are you a victim? Or how about being a victor? Right? Victim are people who complain and blame other people. They focus on weakness, they make excuses. But victor, we focus on what? Improve. We want to do better. There's always continuous improvement. So Victor will seek solution. And that is something we look for when we hire people. We look for problem solver. And how do you get promoted at work? You are proactive in identifying what the problem is. And don't just bring the problem to your boss. Say, I have this problem. It's good that you saw the problem. What should you do next? Think about a solution. And make a proposal. This is how you're going to solve it. Walking solution. A walking problem solver. Problem solving is a huge quality that employers like to hire. Right? Because to be honest, and I've worked for 33 years, and some of you probably work for longer, all our business is about solving problems, right? Solving technical problem, financial problem, business problem, marketing problem, sales problem. It's all about solving problems. So solving problem is a wonderful quality to have. So speaking of that, I help people to prepare for job hunting and do mock interview with them. In fact, I have one tonight. I'm going to help someone interviewing with Google tomorrow. So I'll do a mock interview with them tonight. And it was good news. 2 days ago, I know someone I helped them interview and they got a job offer. So really exciting. So here's one example. Problem solver is such a good attribute. So whenever we do interview, we ask, tell me about yourself. Or what is your strength? Or however way that they ask you, you find a way to answer them in a way that you already prepare. You know how that's what politicians do, right? When they're in a debate, they already prepare their talking point. Regardless of how they ask the questions are asked, they have a way to tell you what they prepare. So that's what you need to do. You always need to prepare what's your elevator speech, right? You always have to tell people, why do I want to hire you? So the person I helped talked about them being a good problem solver. So here's what you said. Do you want to hear how to say it? So here's what you say. You say, I'm good at solving problem. I am eager to learn what the problem is, proactive in proposing a solution. So that's a very short sentence describing what it is. Then you say example, say as an example. I was working on a project with a visiting scholar from China at my university. And the professor gave us a problem to work on and asked us to use a compiler tool that we've never used before. So I spent 3 weeks studying online, practicing, asking experts. Then I came back to help the visiting scholar to finish the problem solving and deliver beautiful results. Was that a good example? So what did you hear in the example? What was the situation? It's a project, right? They have to do. And what is the obstacle? They don't know the tool, right? They've never used it. What's the action? They went and studied for 3 weeks, took the initiative, right? And learned and asked experts. And then what's the result? Figure it out and help someone else and solve the problem, right? So this is actually a good example for both problem solver and fast learner, right? So this is what we call a SOAR story, S-O-A-R. S is the situation. O is the obstacle. A is the action. What did you take? Action. R is the result. Always think about these four when you interview or talk to anyone. Articulate what you're good at. What did you accomplish? So what was the situation? What's the obstacle? What's the action? And what's the, right? Is that good? So this is what I work on with people on mock interviews. And very briefly talk about that description, the adjective, and then one line describing what that is, fast learner or problem solver, and then give a very short example. And the example needs to be very concise and give enough information so that people can understand when, how, who, what, without being very long, right? Okay, so sorry for the digression. Seek solution. Victims complain. We saw that before, right? But we turn complaints into actionable requests, right? Whatever you communicate need to be clear, concise, and prescriptive. So there should be some kind of a call to action. There's some kind of request. It doesn't do any good if you talk and whine and complain, right? What is more valuable? Some kind of a action, right? So make some actionable requests so that you can improve. Victims compare themselves unfavorably with others. So instead of compare with others, what do? Seek help from those more skilled, right? So I said that example earlier, right? What did that person do? He asked the expert. So to be honest, what I just gave you as an example, it took me a while to get that out of the person. So they explain, sometimes too detailed, and it's sometimes lacking the big picture. So I have to ask many questions. Then I help them structure this sentence. So it takes some effort, but I give you an example, something you can do on your own. So victors would seek help from those that are more skilled, right? Then victims blame. Instead of blaming, victors accept responsibility and say the buck stop with me and take responsibility. You see many leaders do that, right? Presidents, chairmen, leaders of organizations and companies. What was the recent one? Starbucks, right? Up the road, Starbucks, right? With the issue with customers coming in and not buying coffee and the whole race issue. So the chairman came out and saying, we're going to take a whole day and learn race training. So take responsibility. That's a sign of maturity. It's not a sign of weakness. Even though you did not do it. But if it's something under your responsibility, take it on. Victims see problem as permanent, but actually it's temporary. Why is it temporary? Problems can be, yes, solved. And then victims predict defeat and give up. It's easy to give up, right? But no, we say, let's think positive and look for a better choice. There's always option. There's always alternative. And lastly, victims just try. Instead of just trying, Nike said, just do it. Yeah, so that's all about grit and resilience, and you really need to apply to it. And then if we think about grit and resilience in the context of people relationship, so this is when we talk about conflicts. So I have a funny saying, and people always laugh at me, but I truly mean it. And I show you that verse earlier, how suffering eventually leads to hope. I said, enjoy the suffering. I'm not saying inviting and welcoming, oh, bring it on, give me suffering. That's not what I mean. I mean, when, just like Chief Justice John Roberts said, right, you're going to go through it. When you are experiencing suffering, you might as well enjoy and embrace it and get the most learning from it. Here's the sad thing. If you suffer and you don't learn anything, you wasted it, right? And what John Roberts said is that it's okay to mistake and it's okay to have obstacle because you learn and grow from it, right? The sad thing is that you never learn and you wasted your suffering, which is a shame, right? So if I have to suffer as well, I may as well get the most out of it, right? So, and then also mistake. Mistake, making it one time is good, and you learn. How about you make it second, third, fourth? Then it's a shame, right? So you did not learn from the mistake. Okay, so we want to embrace conflict. So what are the sources of conflict? Usually, right? So here are some examples. We have different goals, right? Different agenda, different purpose, that's easy to have conflict, different priority, and the hope there is to work out a shared goal, to agree. So we're going to talk about some technique, how do you solve conflict, and then hopefully we can do some role play. Personality conflict, right? Often, someone's fast, someone's slow, how you crash with each other. Really, how do you work with different personality? That's why it's good to know the DISC or the Myers-Briggs and Strength Finder, so you know who you're working with. Because it's situational leadership, right? Based on the person, how you're going to work with them. Different style. So personality conflict, it's bound to happen. The beautiful thing is, we're all different. Is that good or bad? Good. It's good? Why is it good? You team up and you work together, right? Team building. If you ask successful leaders, I talk to many successful leaders. What are some of their key success factors? They said, surround myself with people different from me. Or do they want surround myself with people same as me? Different. Why? So you learn from each other and complement each other. We need all kinds of personality. But is it easy to work with different people? No. But is it worth it? Yeah. So we need to learn. That's all part of leadership. So personality conflicts are bound to happen. So it's valuable. It's good to get to know different people. And there's a whole topic about team building and team management, how to work with different personalities. So that's a lot we can learn on that. So that's not just about chemistry, but really making the effort. And then, when you have limited resource, which happens all the time in the company, right? There's always limited budget, limited head count, limited time. So you always have to set priority. So we're going to have to compromise or make some decisions. So this is where we're going to talk about conflict resolution. How do we really negotiate and manage the resources that are limited and be able to be successful for each other. And then there's different styles, right? So we say different personality and different style. Again, there are people who are really fast, some people who are slow, some people like big picture, vision, some people like detail. You need all types of styles, right? But it's difficult to work with them. So how do you communicate and solve these conflicts? And then values, right? Different values. Some people value people. Some people value money. Some people value fame. Different values. So we need to align to have value. This is a tricky one because honestly, I would not want to compromise my own value, right? And I don't think any one of us should commit to values that are not ethical, right? So perhaps this could be still ethical and yet maybe different priority. So this is a tricky one. So our purpose is, whatever the situation, the reasons that you're different, look at it and embrace it as an opportunity to learn, to grow, right? And don't waste it. Because that's what life is made of, learning opportunities. So in general, conflict management begins with what Stephen Covey said in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I hope most of you know about this. Another very good book to read, very classic, is to seek to understand. You really need to think from the other person's perspective. What is their value, their style? Where are they coming from? Try to seek to understand. So these are the typical 3 big picture of outcome of a conflict. And we'll go into more detail. How do we deal with conflict in 5 different ways? You either meet somewhere in the middle that we're all happy and win-win. Is that good? That's great. Or either meet on your side or meet on my side. Is that good? Not so good. So that's like win-lose or lose-win, right? And you talk to my husband, he would say, win-lose, lose-win is actually lose-lose, right? Because really, you're not making it work. So that depends on the situation. So we're going to look at those 5 approaches. There's some cases where you may just let them have their way because you have to pick your battles, right? You don't have to be right and you don't have to win every time. So it depends on what it is. And then meeting later, right? So if you are really heated and very emotional, should you continue to resolve the conflict? So let's talk about it later. I have some techniques later for you that you can actually know how to say. So, here comes some acrostics. Avoid groaning. Avoid groans. When you have conflicts, these are no-no. Don't gossip. Right? Oh, so-and-so did this and that. Bad example. Oh, revenge. No. Because it's going to come back and totally haunt you. Right? Remember? EQ. Don't let people's what? Let you tell me. What's EQ? Don't let people's words and action change your value and control your response. Say that together. This is very important. Emotional quotient. Don't let people's words and actions change your value and control your response, right? So don't revenge. Remember we said self-pity? Compare ourselves worse to others? Don't do that. Because then you end up obsessed in self-pity. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that you're not able to make it, but you actually can. A, if anything against ethical value, we don't do that. Right? Mean spirit, the bad apples I told you about, forming cliques. And by the way, all the bad apples are gone from the company. And taking sides, so very careful about that. And any negative reaction or getting personal, getting angry. So that again is related to which Q? Emotional, right? EQ, right? Not to get personal, not to get angry. And then S, me, myself, and I. Selfish, right? I know it may sound funny that you think about others at work. To be honest, and believe me, it really works. When you think about others, of course, you're still doing your job. And you're doing it as a team. Okay, so no groans. So here's my rules to live by. Anyone saw this before? Stephen knows everything. All right. Why don't you come and help me? So this is, anyone fly a lot? Frequent mileage. There you go. What status are you, sir?
Sorry?
What status are you? 1K. Awesome. So there's one level you may not get to. I don't know if it's diamond or not. But anyway. So golden rule, we all know, right? So these are guiding principles. These are rules to live by when you deal with conflicts. And how you build your EQ. Right? We say, treat others as how you want to be treated, right? Is that good? Not good enough. How you want to be treated may not be how they want to be treated, right? So better, platinum rule. Treat others as they want to be treated, right? Is that good enough? No. Let's go to executive platinum. That may be 1K or higher. Treat others as we, right? This is where we're going to work about collaborative and win-win. We want to be treated. And then, better yet, not all of you may agree with that, but this is for me. As a Christian, I say treat others as Jesus treat us. Diamond rule. What would Jesus do? So that's my guiding principle. So this is it. So it depends on not how much you fly. It's how much you live. How do you work with people? So think about these scenarios. And definitely not just treat others the way that however you want, but really think about these. Okay, conflict management strategy. So there are 5 approaches. There's the best approach, but not all of them are wrong. There's one really best approach, but it's not always possible. So there are other 4 approaches that's still workable depending on situation. So, engineers love graphs, right? X-axis is how cooperative are you? Very low cooperation and high cooperation. Then, y-axis is how assertive. Remember I told you about assertive earlier? need to be assertive, not aggressive. Assertive, not aggressive. Assertive. Be positive, stay your own mind in a professional and positive way. So unassertive, low assertive, and high assertive. Okay? Ready? So, if it's low assertive and low cooperation, what do you think it is? Sorry, wrong. Avoiding, right? You don't want to deal with it. You're not assertive, and you're not cooperating. You just want to run away. So you see the two arrows is when they run away. So did they solve the problem? No. They just like avoid it, right? There could be cases to do that. We'll dive deeper later. So if it's very cooperative, but low assertive, what is that? Accommodating, right? So, okay, all right, fine, everything, just, I cooperate with you, but I don't assert for myself. So then, one arrow is big, means they have their way, right? So it's meeting in their way. So this is a win-lose, right? Okay, so it's accommodating. Then, how about the middle? Middle assertive and middle cooperation. What do you call that? Louder, someone said it. Yeah, that's right, compromise. So this is kind of like compromising, agreeing to agree in some position, or maybe even agreeing to disagree, just compromising, right? So it's kind of middle of both. Then, how about very assertive, but low cooperation? Also start with C, calm. Right? Really strong head, competing, and it's going to be win, lose, right? I'm going to compete with you and win, lose. Okay, then that is the best. Always upper right is the best. What is that? High assertive and high cooperation. Do you know what it's called? I used that word before. Collaboration. So when you collaborate, you really work, win, and think out of the box and come up with solution. This is not easy. And come up with solution that would, so what are the arrows pointing? Means good, right? So we all get better. So that's the 5. So we're going to dive deeper into these. Avoiding. So this is when you just avoid, right? You just want to run away. You're not helping the other person to reach their goals, and you're not even getting your own, right? And this works if the issue is trivial. So this is when you pick your battle, right? Not everyone needs to be fought. So you may just let it be and not deal with it. And it can be effective if the issue is very costly because you really don't want to break the bank and cause some really big decision. And it's effective, it's very, if the atmosphere is very emotionally charged. People are very tense and you're really avoiding. And this could also be an opportunity at this point. Remember that was the third option, to meet later, right? That you may avoid at this time and you can come back to it. And I also have some example how you talk about that later as a technique for you. And then sometimes issue may resolve itself. But then hope is not a good strategy, right? Hope is not sure if it's going to work. So avoiding is not favorable, but you may use it sometimes. Make sense? So then high cooperation and low assertive is when you accommodate. So this is on the far right in the bottom. It's when you cooperate to a very high degree. And it may be at your own expense. It may work against your own goal and your own desired outcome, but it's still the right thing to do because you accommodate. For example, your boss, right? You would accommodate, especially if also the other person may have a better solution, right? That you acknowledge, yeah, I'll accommodate that. And then it's effective if you would save time, right? So you don't have to kind of, depending on the situation, right? You don't have to kill time for working it out more. So based on the solution, you should make the judgment, should you accommodate, okay? So then compromise is the one in the middle, right? So middle cooperation, middle assertiveness. So this is, in a way, kind of lose-lose, but let's all compromise, give some, take some, and that we both may not get exactly what we want, but may still be the right solution, right? That would really help. It's a moderate level of both assertiveness and cooperation. And it's appropriate if it's a temporary solution or both sides agree to it. And then it may be a trap to fall into compromising as just a cop-out. So depending on what the situation is. Ultimately, collaboration would really be the best if that's what gives you a better solution. So compromising happens a lot, perhaps, in marriages, right? Agreeing and give some and take some and making sacrifices. Competing. Competing is very assertive a lot of times, especially in the real world of competition in different competitors. So it's definitely a win-lose. So that could very well become a lose-lose. And then you are very assertive to achieve your goal and not cooperating with other people. So it's my way or no way, right? And this may be appropriate if the time is very tight, somebody's need to call the shot and move on with it. So depending on the situation. And that's, time is of the essence and need to make a quick decision. And then someone who's in charge or someone who's accountable can make that decision. That make sense? Yes. So all those have their own reasons, and this is the best. And not every case can get to collaboration, right? Collaboration is when you are very cooperative and assertive at the same time, and that we can agree how to come up with a win-win. Really creative. Think out of the box. Instead of my way or your way, how about our way? How can we do it? Remember that, what was that rule? Golden rule, platinum, executive platinum, right? This executive platinum rule. How can it be our way together? But it may take a lot of time and also a lot of trust to come up with that solution. And it takes, a lot of space and all the people's idea. But it's worth it. If it's a problem that's worth solving and investing the time. Make sense? Okay. So can you think of cases for all of these in your professional, personal world? Right? So think about those applications. So we hope to do a role play. So I want to close with some very practical tips. And we're supposed to end at 4 or 4:30? 4?
Time is fine.
Fine. Okay, so another acrostic for you. How can we really build conflict resolution skills? These are the values that I live by and I share with you. Servanthood. You heard us talking about servant leader of integrity. That's what we do through CEO Global Organization, training young people. It's actually a program that started from China at the request of the Chinese government in 2004. And now it's expanded worldwide in the US with many schools. So servanthood is other-centric. Servant leaders of integrity. And it's win-win, supporting other people and understanding, seeking to understand their need. Shine. H is humility. Right? Humble. Not always thinking that you're right. And humble in a way that you're willing to apologize when you're wrong. It's extremely attractive. I don't know what you experience at your work. In my work, when I acknowledge when I'm wrong, people lower their guard and they are happy to work with you. Same thing at home. I spent a lot of time yesterday on parenting, talking about learning how to apologize to our children when you're wrong. The children will listen to you a lot more. And we talked about many ways to apologize and so forth. So apology, having the humility to apologize, and humility to be open-minded, to listen to other people, to collaborate, right? And then integrity is the I, integrity. So we already said what's the definition of integrity? Doing the same right thing when no one is watching, right? Regardless of whether there are people watching or not. So integrity is be yourself, right? Be authentic, be real, and be truthful. Speak up even in good times or bad times. And that's when you have these whistleblower, right? If there's something wrong with the company, something wrong with the project, you know it's against certain value, you speak up in a wise way. And then N is nurture respect. Respect is so critical in building healthy relationship. When you have these shine qualities, is it easier to deal with conflict? Right? These are your investments. These are your chip. This is your ammunition to help you invest in a relationship that help you resolve conflict. Without these, you're going to be going in there cold. You're not prepared. You don't have a vested relationship. And E is empathy. This is the emotional quotient. You are putting yourself in the people's shoe, in others' position. Think about, and I'm going to show you some technique. How do you communicate empathy that people will feel so good? I'll show you some technique to do that. Emotional quotient, what is that definition again? Don't let others' words and actions change your value and control your response. Yes, we're getting there. I mean, if nothing else, I'm just sharing from the bottom of my heart, working for 33 years, and many other people, relationship in the company, outside the company, EQ is powerful. For me also, personally, my mom lived with us for 25 years. That was character building and very good EQ. She was a blessing helping us. At the same time, there were many challenges, right? So that is good EQ building. Choice, right? It's a choice. How do we respond is a choice. People cannot change you. People cannot control you if you don't let them. It's your choice, how you respond. So that was EQ. And take the high road. You saw how I took the high road in my Sunday night blue, right? Sunday night blue. It's not easy. But I took the high road and have self-control. So that is shine. You have a shining personality, a shining relationship with your coworkers. It's a lot easier to solve conflicts. And then, just to conclude, all that I've learned and taught, peace is what I saw, and that's probably what you want to address in all aspects of soft skill. Because these are all aspects of soft skill. How do you make peace? How do you solve conflict and make peace? Being positive. So you heard me being positive. Even my former enemy told me that I was positive and professional. So positive is the positive peer pressure. Don't yield to just negative peer pressure. Be an example. You shine and stand up and be positive. You set the example that people are embarrassed about, right? And you do the right thing and have your own integrity. So that's positive peer pressure, positive influence, right? That's leadership. And positive politics. A couple of weeks ago, we were in New York giving a talk about how to handle office politics, which includes some of the conflict resolution. Politics. Is politics bad? No. I mean, there's some bad politics. But politics could be good, right? So if you look in the dictionary, politics is defined as organization structure to help solve issues, to make progress, right? So politics are good if you do it the right way. Without politics, you don't get things done. So there's something called a positive politics. And in my simple terms, positive politics is really just leadership, right? It's how you lead. And what was the definition of leadership again? Ability to influence others to be the best they can be for their... Yes, you all can come to give this talk next time. That's great. So leadership, influence is positive, right? peace. P. E. Effective communication. I'm going to give you many practical tips. I know I came and talked about effective communication before, but I have more. I'm going to share how you use those for conflict resolution. A. Appealing interpersonal and leadership skill, right? That really help, and there's so much in that. How do you build those attractive interpersonal skills? I show you the shine. Shine is some key qualities. C, we talk more about today, conflict management. E, emotional quotient. These are some assets and foundation for peacemaking. So, here are some peace and communication tips. Catch others do right. So you can see this spell like claps. Let's keep clapping to make sure we catch others do right. We, especially moms, I'm guilty, right? We nag and, just catch them do wrong for our children. Make sure you catch people do right. It's extremely encouraging, energizing, empowering. Catch them do right. The moment that you see them doing some baby step improvement, someone on your team, someone, your coworker, catch them do right and telling them. And I'll explain to you how you can praise them. So in general, when you praise, right, you don't just say, oh, good job, oh, right, wonderful, well done. That's empty. You would say, and we have a lot more detail yesterday in the parenting conference, you would describe, I really like how you put in such careful project plan and follow through. Describe what they did and thanking them and praise them, especially with children. I like how you're responsible, finishing your homework on time, put in character words, set the right expectation for them. So catch them do right, listen. God gave us how many ears? 2, and 1 mouth for a reason. We need to listen how much? At least twice as much as we talk. And I love to talk, but I need to learn to listen more, right? So listen, remember we talked about feedback, 360-degree feedback, and the body language. Watch the body language, not just the words. And also watch what's not being spoken. What's not spoken is also a message, right? A is admit when you're wrong. I told you that earlier. Humility. P is being proactive, honest, authentic, and establish common ground. Very important. Common ground is what sparks in a conversation. Especially when you meet someone new, when you are networking. How do you establish rapport? How do you establish common ground? Get to know them. So one time I was in the elevator with my chairman, Randall Stevenson of AT&T. It was not 37 floors. It was 5 floors. So it's not very long. So it was a 30-second elevator ride speech. I established common ground with him. 2 things. One, because I know his secretary. So I know he's a Sunday school teacher, and I'm a Sunday school teacher for 30 years. So we talked about how rewarding it is to teach Sunday school. Second, we're both very big on leadership training. In fact, AT&T sent me to executive education at Cornell for a month, Columbia, UPenn, a lot of investment. But I always feel guilty. It's like tens and thousands of dollars. For me, one person. And I would come back with a lot of learning, but the other people don't know much about it. And it was very hard to make changes. So our chairman came up with leading with distinction. For top 6% of all company leadership in person, that once a year we have this training, which is awesome. And then all the mid layer and the bottom layer manager also get the training virtually. So then everyone benefit from the same training, same principle, and singing from the same song sheet for 10 years. So I applaud him for providing us with leading with distinction. So that's establishing common ground. So you need to know the person you're talking to and spark conversation that way. S is speak to the group as individuals. So I'm talking to you, but I'm making eye contact to many of you. Did you see that? Did you feel like I'm talking to you individually? But it's also to a group. So this is also public speaking, right? Presentation skill. You don't just stand here like a vegetable, right? You need to walk around and get you dizzy and hopefully get you paying attention. And you need to change your tone, right? So you have fast and slow pace and you stop sometimes. And people say, what happened? And they woke up. Oh. It's just you talking. So we want to change your tone and get people's attention. And really looking at individuals, like speaking to the individuals while we know the audience. I'm going to show you an example of sandwich style conversation. Anyone know sandwich style? Oh, good. Does it work? Sometimes, okay. And then, so why don't you tell us, what's sandwich style?
Just I will create something, first, and I will give my suggestion based on some perhaps some not very good, how to say,
So you want to make a suggestion, right, in
and
a sandwich?
I will include it with another kind of agreement or
Something positive, something agreement.
positive.
Okay, good. So we'll go through the detail. Thank you. So then you still speak with authority to gain influence and be consistent in your words and actions. So you walk the talk. So this is the claps, how you try to communicate in peace, and knowing that everyone come into the conversation with their baggage, right? Their background, their emotion, their culture, their personality, their belief, their past experiences, and their values. So we need to be sensitive to that. So let's get into some really more practical principles. So these are the 7 effective business communication, 7C, that George Root came up with. I've told you before, concise, right? Less is more. Less is more. Concise. So we're going to give some more examples, how you do interviews, how do you describe yourself. Complete all information the first time. So when I was helping the people prepare for the interview, it was a little bit hard to understand all the detail and then try to put it all together in order to achieve the 7C, right? And the SOAR, I told you, SOAR. So how to make it concise and get the complete picture and make it conversational, make it clear. So it's okay to speak slowly, right? Make it clear. And be considerate so that people can understand your answer. Be confident so you have credibility. And make sure your data is correct. You check it. So these are the 7C. So when we say clear and concise, and you heard me presenting, right? You know what filler words are? What are they? Like, yeah. Are those good? Those are very annoying, right? So do you hear me say that? So we need to really be careful. It's okay to stop. When you do interviews, when you present, when you do meetings, listen to yourself or actually record yourself at home or practice in the mirror to a point that you are listening and you are not using like, because those are very distracting and very annoying. So be really careful. It's okay to be silent. It's okay to pause. Why do we say those? Because we're thinking. We're not sure. It's okay. Think in silence. So don't talk. So here's some very practical techniques. These are really good. How do you do active listening? When you do conflict resolution, how do you do active listening? One of my slides from parenting yesterday. We need to do active listening with our children, with our spouses, with our coworkers. 4 approach here. 1, encouraging. How do you encourage them? So we don't want to overdo this and disrupt people or interrupt people. So when they are talking, you have response, right? Nodding, lean forward, right? And paying attention, open, expressing your interest, and at the right time. Don't keep saying, I see. Then you're interrupting, right? So at the right time, I see. Yes. right? So acknowledge that you're listening. That's interesting, sounds good, something positive, right? Second, restatement, rephrase. Active listening, this is powerful. Especially interview or your leadership meeting with you. Make sure you understand what they say. You would repeat in your own words. Is this what you mean? So I hear you said this. Did I get it right? So is that what you're saying? So I understand your idea. Make sense? Have you heard people using this technique with you?
Yes.
Have you done it yourself? Does it work? Powerful, right? Third, because that way you have alignment, right? That way you have an agreement. We are on the same page. Third, reflection. This is so powerful. This is empathy, right? Reflection. What is so powerful about this? You're giving the emotion a name. How do you like it when people identify with your emotion? And they say, you must feel frustrated. Do you like that? When you're frustrated and they said, oh, you must feel frustrated. Do you like that? They are identifying with you, your emotions, and giving it a name. That's powerful. Simple is powerful. You say, you must feel something, something. Give it a name. Hopefully you're not accusing them. Hopefully you're not saying something wrong, right? It has to be something obvious. That they're frustrated, they're disappointed, they're discouraged. Something. Give it a name. You must be excited. They would like that, right? That must be fun. I can understand that you feel this way. That must be frustrating. Sounds like you enjoyed it. Is that good? So that helped to repeat the feeling. When you use this communication technique in a conflict resolution, it goes a long way, right? Later I have another one that's negotiation, really good one. Summarization. So just show that you really understand what's being said. So to summarize, you think this, that. If I understand you correctly, these are the three major issues. 1, 2, 3. Is that good? Okay, so those are some ideas on active listening. So I think this may be the final slide. Positive communication methods, very powerful. Praising and criticizing with character and encouragement. So I gave you example earlier, and I have like a list of 7x7 character matrix, how to praise your children. So character, how do you use those character in praising people? So that's not empty, good job, terrific, wonderful, you know. So it's like, I really like how you ran the meeting. So on time, productive, right? Be really specific in recognizing them. So here's the sandwich communication method. You start with a praise. It cannot be empty praise. It has to be real. Cannot make it up. It has to be sincere and genuine, right? So you start with something positive that they are doing, what they're good at. And then one suggestion for improvement is your meat or the bone. And then you wrap with another piece of bread that leave them with a positive impression of something good. Why do they care to listen to your improvement suggestions? Is that good? So, here's an example. I like how you follow through with your responsibility. Is that good? I mean, this has to be true, right? So, make sure it's real. I suggest, don't say, you better, or you should. I statement. I suggest you pay more attention to details. And whatever the suggestion is, you can go more. Some people told me yesterday when I shared this, they say they may get mixed message. They may get lost into all the positive front and the positive back and forgot what you said in the middle. So make sure you elaborate enough that they get the message and get the meat and the bone in the middle. So suggest you pay more attention to detail. Then you wrap up with the good mutual goal, right? For the greater good, right? And we benefit from your job well done. Is that good? This is just a simple example, but that's the concept. Always catch people do right? So this morning we had 2 sessions with the parents on a lot of challenging issues. So we had many difficult cases, but we always go back. What can we start encouraging the children with first? And then how can we help them to do better? So make sure we don't just say all these empty, good job, very good. And then the wise appeal is a very smart one for negotiation. That you would say, and a lot of teenagers, we encourage them to use this with their parents. So we would put that as an example. So a wise appeal, not arguing, it's somewhat of a negotiating. You say, I understand that you want me to take out the trash because it's smelly and it's full, right? So that's the first thing. And then you say, I have a problem with that because I'm in the middle of finishing my homework or finishing my game, whatever it is, right? Then the third, can I please finish in 10 minutes, then I'll take out the trash. Is that good? Yes. Yeah. So this technique helps you state what the parent wants them to do. So I heard you. Yeah, you said that. I know. And the smell is full. Okay, got it. But I'm working on something, right? Whatever it is. And then I'm still going to do it, but can you give me 10 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. Does that make sense? So same idea you can consider doing in many different ways. And then ultimately, we want to help people to nurture honor. And the honor definition is treating people as special, doing more than what's expected, and doing it with a good attitude. And it's easier said than done, but again, you can be the role model for that. Honor is treating people special, doing more than what's expected, and doing it with a good attitude. So these are really practical techniques. Are you going to use these? Practice these. So hopefully we can do role play. I think that's it. So, homework assignment to role play. Talk to each other, pair up, right? Can we do that? Because I've come before and people have told me, can you give us some time to practice? Instead of just me talking? That's great. I think you should talk. So I'd like you to really do your homework. Think about the plus is what you're going to start doing that you've never done before. Give me one example that you're going to start doing from all that you heard in the last 2 hours. One thing. Nothing? It's 2 hours. Say again? Listen more. Well, so more is the multiplication. If you're already listening, you listen more. So what is something you've never done but you're going to start doing? I give you a lot of help. Wise appeal, I'm sure you have not done it before. Right? Or some of you didn't do sandwich. Okay, what is one thing you're going to start doing? Huh?
Collaboration.
Huh?
Collaboration.
Collaboration. Okay. Good. And what is something you're going to stop doing? From the groans. Complain. Thank you. And what are you going to do more? You're already doing it. But you may do more. What's that?
Praise people.
Huh?
Yeah, praise people.
Praise people more. Good. It's always good to praise. As long as it's not empty and it's genuine and sincere. And then what are you going to do last? You may already be cutting it out, but let's cut out more. What would that be? Talk less. Okay. I'm with you, Dr. Cole. Well, I need to do that. Okay, guys, so can you please team up? 2 for 2 or 3. Okay? 2 or 3 or 2. 2 may be better if you don't mind. Danny, go to the back or something. So 2 for 2 is better. So then I'd like you to do this for 10 minutes. 10 minutes, and then we will have some Q&A or some reports. So let's have you do it 10 minutes. Take risk, are willing to speak up. Practice makes perfect. And taking notes on your own and compare when the final one comes out is a good way to learn. It depends on how much effort you want to put into it. And then I also encourage you, in terms of communication and public speaking, to volunteer in CIE,
Yes.
like Simon and I see. Thank you, Simon. Thank you for the opportunity.